While most of us reach for the thermostat when winter's icy fingers come knocking, the Amish face a more interesting challenge. Without access to modern heating systems, they've mastered the art of keeping their massive barns warm through Pennsylvania's bone-chilling winters. And surprisingly, their methods might just teach us a thing or two about heating efficiency. But why is the barn so important in the first place? A barn is the beating heart of any farm, especially an Amish one. It's where life happens, where work gets done, and most importantly, where animals make their home. During those bitter winter months when temperatures plummet below freezing, maintaining proper barn heat becomes as critical as making sure your morning coffee is hot. And trust me, both are essential for starting the day right. Let's talk about those animals for a moment. Dairy cows, which are common on many Amish farms, are surprisingly sensitive to cold temperatures. When the temperature drops below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, these ladies start directing more of their energy towards staying warm instead of producing milk. Recent agricultural studies have shown that milk production can drop by up to 8% when temperatures fall below this threshold. For an Amish farmer relying on dairy income, that's like watching dollar bills float away with every cold breeze. But it's not just about milk production. Young calves and newborn livestock are particularly vulnerable to cold stress. These babies need temperatures between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit to thrive in their first few weeks of life. Without proper heating, mortality rates can spike dramatically. One study from the University of Wisconsin found that calves exposed to temperatures below 4 degrees Celsius had a 2.4 times higher risk of health issues compared to those kept in warmer conditions. Storage is another critical factor that often gets overlooked. That barn isn't just housing animals, it's protecting valuable feed and equipment too. Hay needs to stay dry to prevent mold growth, which can be toxic to livestock. When temperatures fluctuate wildly between cold and warm, condensation can form, creating perfect conditions for mold to flourish. Agricultural experts estimate that poor storage conditions can lead to losses of up to 25% of stored hay value. And that's no small potatoes for any farmer. Then there's the human element. Amish farmers spend countless hours in their barns, particularly during winter months. Ever tried milking cows with frozen fingers? It's about as fun as trying to eat soup with a fork. Proper barn heating isn't just about comfort, it's about being able to work efficiently and safely. Cold muscles are more prone to injury, and tools can become dangerous when temperatures drop too low. Even simple tasks like checking on animals or maintaining equipment become challenging when you're shivering so hard your teeth are playing percussion. Let's not forget about the water systems. In an Amish barn, keeping water from freezing is crucial. When temperatures drop below freezing, water pipes and troughs can ice over faster than a politician can change their mind. Animals need constant access to fresh water. A dairy cow alone drinks up to 30 to 50 gallons a day. Good luck trying to drink that yourself in a whole month. Without proper heating, farmers might find themselves breaking ice multiple times a day or dealing with burst pipes, which is about as much fun as getting a root canal during a power outage. Some folks might say, well, animals have survived cold weather for thousands of years in the wild. True, but there's a big difference between wild animals and domesticated livestock. Modern farm animals have been bred for specific traits like milk production or rapid growth, often at the expense of their cold hardiness. It's like expecting a Chihuahua to survive in the Arctic just because wolves can. It's not quite the same ballgame. Speaking of keeping things warm, the Amish have mastered the art of barn design over generations, creating structures that naturally retain heat better than modern buildings. They're architectural marvels that manage to stay warm without a single electrical outlet in sight. While modern barns often prioritize quick construction and minimal costs, Amish barns are built with the wisdom of generations, where every beam and board serves a purpose in the battle against winter's chill. The secret lies in the walls, and boy, are they something special. Traditional Amish barn walls can measure up to 45 centimeters thick, nearly double what you'd find in many modern constructions. These aren't your typical 2x4 affairs. We're talking about solid wooden beams that could make a lumberjack whistle in appreciation. The thickness serves a dual purpose: structural integrity and natural insulation. Wood itself has an R value, that's fancy talk for how well it insulates, of about 1.4 per inch of thickness, meaning these walls pack quite the thermal punch. But here's where it gets interesting. Between those mighty wooden beams, you'll find layers of natural insulation that would make any modern energy efficiency expert green with envy. Straw bales, packed densely between the wall cavities, provide an insulation value that rivals modern fiberglass. A standard straw bale can achieve an R value of around 2.5 to 3.5 per inch. When you do the math, those thick walls stuffed with straw can reach total R values of 20 to 30, numbers that would make your home builder's jaw drop. The roof design is another marvel of engineering simplicity. Most Amish barns feature steep pitches, often at angles between 35 and 45 degrees. This isn't just for show. These angles are carefully calculated to shed snow efficiently while creating an insulating air pocket in the hayloft. That space between the hay storage and the roof peak acts like a thermal buffer zone, trapping rising warm air and preventing it from escaping through the roof. It's like wearing a wool hat in winter, except this hat is big enough to cover a few dozen cows. Speaking of hay storage, the placement isn't random either. Hay bales are strategically stacked along the outer walls, creating an additional layer of insulation. Fresh hay can generate temperatures of up to 49 degrees Celsius as it cures, acting like a natural radiator. The Amish have learned to harness this heat, using it to their advantage during the coldest months. Who needs a fancy heating system when your wall insulation doubles as a heat source? Windows in Amish barns might seem randomly placed to the untrained eye, but their positioning is as strategic as a chess master's opening move. They're typically installed on the south-facing walls to capture maximum sunlight during winter months, while north-facing walls have minimal openings to prevent heat loss. The windows themselves are often double-layered, with some farmers adding removable wooden shutters that can be closed during particularly cold nights, like eyelids protecting against the winter's harsh glare. The foundation deserves special mention, too. Many Amish barns are built with a bank barn design, meaning they're partially built into a hillside. This earthen backbone provides natural insulation and protection from harsh winds. The ground maintains a relatively constant temperature of around 10 degrees Celsius year-round, helping to moderate the barn's internal temperature. It's like having Mother Nature as your personal thermostat. Even the barn doors play their part in this thermal symphony. Traditional Amish barn doors are thick, really thick. We're talking about doors that make your car look lightweight. They're often built in layers, with air pockets trapped between boards acting as additional insulation. And they're hung with precision to minimize gaps, because as any farmer will tell you, a draft under a barn door can be as unwelcome as a skunk at a garden party. The flooring system incorporates small gaps between boards, allowing warm air from the animals below to rise naturally through the structure while providing essential ventilation. This might sound counterintuitive when trying to keep heat in, but proper airflow prevents moisture buildup that could damage both the structure and its inhabitants. As my old friend Jacob once said, "A barn that can't breathe is like a person holding their sneeze. Something's bound to go wrong." Now, with such a well-insulated structure in place, the next question is how to generate the heat to fill it, and that's where the real fire starting begins. Wood stoves stand as the hardy champions of Amish barn heating, serving as reliable workhorses through the bitterest winter days. These aren't your grandmother's decorative parlor stoves. We're talking about serious pieces of iron engineering that could make a blacksmith proud. Measuring up to 6.5 feet in height and weighing as much as 660 pounds, these stoves mean business. The best models can maintain a steady heat output of up to 50,000 BTUs per hour, enough to warm very large space. A typical Amish barnwood stove burns through an impressive amount of firewood. During the coldest months, one stove can consume between 15 and 20 cubic meters of wood. That's about enough to fill a small bedroom from floor to ceiling. My friend Eli jokes that splitting all that wood is better than any gym membership you could buy, though he's still waiting for his six-pack abs to show up. The physical demand is no joke. Studies show that an hour of wood splitting can burn up to 450 calories, making it one of the most effective full-body workouts available. The wood selection process is an art form in itself. Hardwoods like oak, maple, and hickory are preferred for their longer burn times and higher heat output. 1 kilogram of well-seasoned oak can produce around 4,500 calories of heat energy. Compare that to pine, which only puts out about 2,700 calories per kilogram, and you'll understand why Amish farmers are particular about their wood choices. As they say in Lancaster County, soft wood makes soft heat. Each species has its own burning characteristics. Beech burns long and steady, maple produces intense heat with little smoke, and hickory combines both qualities while adding a sweet aroma to the barn. Preparing this mountain of wood isn't a simple weekend task. It's a year-round operation. Trees are typically felled during the late winter when sap content is lowest, then left to season for at least 6 months. A seasoned log contains only about 20% moisture, compared to fresh-cut wood's 50%. This difference means seasoned wood not only burns hotter, but produces less creosote, that nasty tar-like substance that can build up in chimneys and cause fires. The drying process requires careful stacking to allow air circulation, and many Amish farmers build dedicated wood sheds with raised floors and slatted sides to optimize the seasoning process. The woodlot management system many Amish families use is nothing short of brilliant. They typically maintain a rotating 7-year plan, dividing their woodlots into sections. Each year, they harvest from a different section, allowing the others to regrow. This sustainable approach means they'll never run out of firewood, assuming they stick to the plan. One farmer told me it's like having 7 savings accounts. You only withdraw from one at a time, while the others keep growing interest. A well-managed woodlot of 10 hectares can sustainably produce enough firewood to heat a large barn indefinitely. The morning fire-starting ritual in an Amish barn is something of a sacred ceremony. It begins well before sunrise, usually around 4 in the morning. The previous night's coals are stirred, fresh kindling is added, and new logs are carefully arranged. The goal is to build a fire that will burn steady and long, not one that flares up quickly and dies out. Getting this wrong is like serving cold coffee to a morning person. You'll regret it all day long. The technique involves creating a base of coals, adding small splits of hardwood, and gradually building up to larger pieces that will burn for hours. Most barns feature multiple stoves strategically placed throughout the structure. The main stable area might have 2 or 3 larger stoves, while smaller ones might be positioned in milk houses or workshop areas. The placement of these stoves isn't random. They're positioned to create convection currents that help distribute heat throughout the building. It's like conducting an orchestra where every stove plays its part in the symphony of warmth. The most common arrangement is to place the primary stoves near the center of the barn, with smaller units positioned near critical areas like water lines or newborn animal pens. Maintaining these stoves requires constant attention. Ashes need to be removed daily, which isn't as simple as it sounds when you're dealing with multiple stoves burning through the night. These ashes don't go to waste, though. They're often spread on icy walkways for traction or added to garden soil for their mineral content. Some farmers even mix them with animal feed in small quantities as a mineral supplement. Recent agricultural studies have shown that wood ash can contain up to 25% calcium carbonate, making it an excellent soil amendment for acidic soils. The stovepipes and chimneys need regular cleaning too. Creosote buildup is checked monthly during heavy use periods, and chimneys are typically cleaned 3 to 4 times during the heating season. One farmer mentioned that you can tell it's time to clean the chimney when the barn swallows start complaining about their sooty nests, though I suspect he might have been pulling my leg on that one. A clean chimney is crucial for safety and efficiency. Just 1 millimeter of creosote buildup can reduce heat transfer by up to 40%. But sometimes, when the mercury really takes a nosedive or when dealing with particularly vulnerable animals, wood heat alone just isn't enough. And that's where gas-powered solutions enter the picture. Life comes with surprises on an Amish farm, and sometimes those surprises need a little extra warmth. When a calf arrives during a freezing January night or early spring, chicks need protection from the cold. That's where propane and kerosene heaters prove their worth. These portable powerhouses deliver quick, targeted heat exactly where it's needed most, turning a potentially dangerous situation into a manageable one. The typical propane heater used in Amish barns packs quite a punch, capable of producing between 25,000 to 40,000 BTUs of heat, enough to warm up to 95 square meters of space. Unlike wood stoves that take hours to heat up, these heaters start delivering warmth within minutes. It's like having a miniature sun on wheels, minus the sunburn and uncomfortable small talk about the weather. Modern infrared propane heaters are particularly efficient, converting nearly 90% of their fuel into usable heat. Most Amish farmers keep at least 2 or 3 portable heaters ready for action. They're particularly valuable in the spring when new lambs and calves are arriving regularly. Young animals need temperatures around 21 degrees Celsius to thrive, and these heaters can maintain that temperature in a small area without heating the entire barn. An average newborn calf pen might use about 1 kilogram of propane per day during cold snaps. For chickens, these heaters are absolutely essential, maintaining temperatures between 27 and 32 degrees Celsius for the first week of a chick's life. Kerosene heaters serve as reliable backups, offering a different set of advantages. They're less expensive to operate than propane, costing around 20 cents per hour compared to propane's 35 cents. A single kerosene heater can run for up to 12 hours on just 4 liters of fuel, making them excellent for overnight operation. The trade-off? They need more frequent refilling and produce a distinct odor that some animals and farmers find less than appealing. As one farmer put it, "It smells like your uncle's old tractor decided to take up perfume making." Safety features in modern gas heaters have come a long way. Most models now include tip-over switches that automatically shut off the fuel supply if the heater falls over, a handy feature when you're dealing with curious calves who think everything new is a potential scratching post. Oxygen depletion sensors also help prevent the heater from using up too much oxygen in enclosed spaces, though Amish farmers are careful to maintain proper ventilation anyway. The latest models even include carbon monoxide detectors that shut down the unit if dangerous levels are detected. The cost of running these heaters might surprise you. A typical farmer might spend between $75 and $100 per month on fuel during peak usage times. That's significantly less than what many Americans pay to heat their homes, though admittedly, most Americans aren't heating their homes with wood stoves either. The real savings come from using these heaters strategically, only when and where they're needed most. Some farmers have worked out detailed schedules, moving heaters between different areas throughout the day based on which animals need the most warmth at different times. Maintenance is straightforward but crucial. Fuel lines need regular checking for cracks or damage. Burners require cleaning to prevent carbon buildup, and thermocouples occasionally need replacement. Most Amish farmers have become experts at these simple repairs, though, as my friend Samuel says, if you can't fix it with baling wire or WD-40, you probably shouldn't be fixing it at all. Regular maintenance typically includes weekly cleaning of fuel filters, monthly inspection of all gas connections, and seasonal deep cleaning of the entire unit. Storage tanks for propane and kerosene require their own special attention. Most Amish farms maintain several medium-sized propane tanks, typically around 100 kilograms each, positioned safely away from the barn. These tanks are painted white or silver to reflect sunlight and prevent pressure buildup during summer months. A well-maintained tank can last 20 years or more, though they're inspected annually for any signs of rust or damage. The storage area is usually surrounded by a protective fence and features clear warning signs. Safety first, even on an Amish farm. While these gas-powered solutions provide essential supplemental heat, black diamonds await their turn to show what real warmth is all about. Black rocks might not sound exciting, but coal stoves have revolutionized barn heating for many Amish farmers, especially in regions where coal is readily available. These powerhouse heaters can maintain steady temperatures for hours with minimal attention, a blessing for farmers who'd rather not wake up every 2 hours to feed a wood stove during cold snaps. The numbers tell the story. 1 ton of coal produces the same heat as 1.5 to 2 cords of wood. That's about 30% more heat per kilogram than its wooden cousin. A single load of quality anthracite coal can burn steadily for 8 to 12 hours, maintaining temperatures between 15 and 25 degrees Celsius throughout the barn. As my Amish friend Levi puts it, coal is like that reliable worker who shows up early, works hard, and never complains about overtime. Modern coal stoves are marvels of efficiency, converting up to 80% of coal's energy into usable heat. The average barn coal stove consumes about 2 to 3 tons of coal during a typical winter season. At current prices between $100 and $150 per ton, that's a significant saving compared to other heating methods. One farmer joked that he saves enough money to buy a new horse every year, though his wife keeps reminding him that's not actually in the budget. Installation requires some serious planning. A typical coal stove setup costs between $1,500 and $3,000, including the stove, chimney, and safety equipment. That might sound steep, but spread over the stove's 15 to 20-year lifespan, it's quite economical. Plus, as another farmer mentioned, it's still cheaper than divorcing your wife, after she discovers you've been waking her up at 3 in the morning to help stoke the wood stove. The stoves themselves are built like tanks. Cast iron construction, airtight seals, and thermostatic controls allow for precise temperature regulation. Most models feature a hopper that can hold 25 to 35 kilograms of coal, automatically feeding it into the fire as needed. The ash pan typically needs emptying only once every day or two, depending on usage, a far cry from the constant attention wood stoves demand. Ventilation becomes crucial with coal heat. While wood smoke might make your clothes smell like a campfire, coal smoke contains sulfur dioxide and other less pleasant compounds. Proper chimney height and design are essential. Most Amish coal stove chimneys extend at least 1 meter above the roof's peak. Some farmers have even installed traditional wind-powered turbine ventilators to improve airflow, proving that sometimes the old ways work best. Coal storage requires its own special consideration. Most Amish farms maintain a dedicated coal bin, typically holding 3 to 4 tons. These bins need to be well ventilated, yet protected from rain and snow. Coal doesn't care much about getting wet. Unlike wood, it won't rot, but nobody enjoys handling frozen chunks of coal in the middle of winter. The bins are usually positioned for easy access during snowstorms because Murphy's Law dictates that you'll always run out of coal during the worst weather possible. Quality matters tremendously when it comes to coal. Anthracite, with its high carbon content and low impurity levels, is the gold standard. It burns hotter and cleaner than bituminous coal, producing less ash and fewer emissions. Experienced farmers can tell good coal by its appearance. It should be hard, glossy, and break with sharp edges. As one old-timer told me, if it looks like your mother-in-law's heart, it's probably good anthracite. The ash from coal stoves finds its own uses around the farm. While not as nutritious for gardens as wood ash, coal ash makes excellent fill for muddy areas and provides traction on icy paths. Some farmers mix it with sand for their animals' dust baths, though most chickens seem to prefer expressing their opinions about this practice by leaving presents near the farmer's boots. But sometimes the best heat source isn't something you burn at all. It's walking around on 4 legs right there in your barn. Mother Nature's finest heaters come with 4 legs and a healthy appetite. A single dairy cow generates nearly 600 watts of heat. That's like having a small space heater that runs on hay instead of electricity. Put 20 cows together in a barn, and you've got enough heat output to rival a modest home furnace. The best part? These living, breathing heaters produce milk while they're at it. The science behind animal heat is fascinating. A dairy cow's rumen, that's one of their 4 stomachs, acts like a fermentation tank, breaking down hay and generating heat in the process. When you consider that a typical cow eats around 25 kilograms of food per day, that's a lot of biological heating going on. The fermentation process can raise the internal temperature of the rumen to 40 degrees Celsius, making each cow a walking furnace. One farmer claimed his cows keep the barn warmer than his wood stove, though he admits the aromatherapy leaves something to be desired. Pigs are particularly efficient heat generators. An adult sow produces around 400 watts of heat, and they tend to cluster together, multiplying their warming effect. A pen of 10 market-weight pigs can raise the temperature of a small barn section by 5 to 7 degrees Celsius. Their high metabolic rate and social behavior make them natural heating units. As a bonus, they don't complain about splitting wood or hauling coal. The only downside? Try telling a 600-pound sow she's hogging all the warm spots. Sheep might look like they're wearing warm coats, but they're also contributing to the barn's heating system. A flock of 30 sheep generates roughly the same heat as a 2,000-watt heating element. Their wool actually helps distribute the heat more evenly throughout the space, acting like tiny, mobile insulation units. During shearing season, farmers notice an immediate drop in barn temperature, proving that these woolly warmers aren't just fleecing around. Chickens are surprisingly effective heaters too. A chicken coop with 200 laying hens can maintain temperatures 10 degrees above the outside temperature, purely from body heat. That's why many Amish farmers position their chicken coops near barn walls. The heat transfers through and helps warm the larger space. A single chicken generates about 6 watts of heat. Multiply that by a few hundred birds, and you've got a significant heat source. Strategic animal placement becomes crucial for maximizing this natural heat source. Younger animals are typically housed in the center of the barn, surrounded by adult animals that act as living windbreaks and heaters. New calves often get prime spots near the milk cows, benefiting from both maternal warmth and protection. Some farmers have even developed specific arrangements based on which animals generate the most heat, creating zones of warmth throughout the barn. The amount of feed plays a direct role in heat generation. During cold snaps, animals naturally eat more to maintain their body temperature. A dairy cow might increase her hay consumption by 20% when temperatures drop below freezing. This increased food intake leads to more fermentation, which means more heat production. Nature's own thermostat at work. One farmer joked that his cows eat better than he does during winter, but at least they're paying rent in BTUs. Even the manure contributes to the heating system. Fresh manure can reach temperatures of up to 43 degrees Celsius as it decomposes. While nobody's suggesting using it as a primary heat source, this biological process adds to the overall warmth of the barn. Some farmers have noticed that areas near the manure collection systems stay noticeably warmer, though they're quick to point out that this particular heating method doesn't make it into the farm tour highlights. Ventilation becomes especially important when relying on animal heat. All these living furnaces produce not just warmth, but also moisture from their breathing and sweating. A 100-cow dairy barn can add up to 600 liters of water to the air each day through respiration alone. Without proper airflow, this moisture could lead to condensation problems and respiratory issues for the animals. Many Amish farmers have developed clever passive ventilation systems that maintain the delicate balance between fresh air and heat retention. But all this animal-generated warmth still needs to find its way to every corner of the barn, and that's where the real engineering begins. Hot air rises. It's a simple fact that's been helping Amish farmers heat their barns for generations. But moving that warmth around a building the size of an NBA basketball court? That takes some clever engineering. Through years of trial and error, Amish farmers have developed remarkably effective ways to distribute heat throughout their barns using nothing but the laws of physics. At the heart of barn heat distribution is the stack effect. Warm air's natural tendency to rise while cold air sinks. Most Amish barns are designed with ceiling heights between 4 and 6 meters, creating a perfect environment for this natural circulation. The temperature difference between floor and ceiling can reach up to 8 degrees Celsius, driving a constant flow of air through the building. Strategically placed vents in the barn's peak act like chimneys, drawing warm air upward. Small adjustable openings near the floor allow cooler air to enter, creating a continuous cycle. The real trick is controlling this airflow. Too much ventilation wastes heat, too little leads to moisture problems. Many farmers use simple wooden slides to adjust these openings, joking that it's their version of a smart thermostat, just with more splinters. The placement of heat sources plays a crucial role too. Wood stoves, animal pens, and hay storage areas are positioned to create convection currents that help distribute warmth throughout the space. One particularly clever setup involves placing the main stove slightly off-center, which creates a circular airflow pattern that helps warm the entire barn more evenly. As my friend Jacob says, it's like stirring soup. You don't put the spoon in the middle. Large manual fans, typically mounted on walls or suspended from ceiling beams, help move air when natural circulation needs a boost. These fans, often measuring 1.5 to 2 meters in diameter, can move up to 15,000 cubic meters of air per hour when turned by hand. Some farmers have rigged these fans to harness the movement of horses on treadmills, creating an animal-powered ventilation system that would make Rube Goldberg proud. The floor plan itself contributes to heat distribution. Many Amish barns feature a central corridor with stalls and work areas branching off to either side. This layout naturally channels air movement, helping to distribute heat more evenly. The corridor typically runs north to south, taking advantage of prevailing winds for additional air movement when needed. One farmer claims this design was inspired by watching how wind moves through corn rows, though his wife insists he came up with that story after falling asleep in the cornfield. Windows and doors aren't just for light and access. They're crucial components of the heat distribution system. South-facing windows are often larger and positioned to maximize solar gain during winter months. Some farmers have even installed reflective metal sheets on the north wall, bouncing both light and heat back into the barn. These sheets serve double duty as impromptu mirrors, giving the cows something to admire themselves in during their downtime. Hay storage areas, typically located in the upper levels, serve as massive heat reservoirs. As hay cures, it releases heat that helps warm the barn. Some farmers stack their hay bales in specific patterns to create air channels, allowing warm air to flow more efficiently through the structure. Fresh hay can reach internal temperatures of up to 49 degrees Celsius, making it an effective passive heating element. Even the barn's exterior paint color affects heat distribution. Dark-colored barns absorb more solar heat, while light colors reflect it. Many Amish farmers paint their barn's south face darker than its north face, maximizing heat gain during winter months. This two-tone paint job might look odd to city folks, but when you're heating without electricity, every bit of solar gain counts. But there's another source of heat that requires no distribution system at all. It comes straight from the sun itself. Free heat rains down from above every day, even in winter, and Amish farmers have become experts at catching it. Passive solar heating and thermal mass might sound like fancy engineering terms, but they're really just smart ways of using the sun's warmth and storing it for later. Something Amish farmers have been doing for generations. The orientation of an Amish barn isn't random. It's precisely calculated to maximize solar gain. Most barns are built with their longest side facing south, giving the sun maximum surface area to warm during winter days. The roof pitch is carefully designed too, usually around 35 degrees in Pennsylvania, matching the average angle of the winter sun. One farmer joked that he positioned his barn by watching where his cat napped during winter. Turns out the cat knew a thing or two about solar orientation. Windows on the south side are sized and positioned to let in low winter sunlight while blocking the higher summer sun. A typical Amish barn might have 30 to 40% of its south-facing wall dedicated to windows. These aren't your standard house windows. They're often double-layered with an air gap in between, creating natural insulation while still letting the sun shine through. During winter months, these windows can contribute up to 30% of the barn's daily heating needs. But collecting solar heat is only half the battle. Storing it is where thermal mass comes into play. Concrete floors, stone walls, and even water barrels are strategically placed to soak up heat during the day and release it slowly at night. A 15-centimeter thick concrete floor can store enough heat to keep temperatures stable for up to 8 hours after sunset. Some farmers have even started incorporating dark-colored stones into their barn walls specifically for heat absorption. Water proves particularly effective for heat storage. It can hold 3 times more heat than the same volume of concrete. Many Amish farmers keep large water tanks in their barns, positioned where they'll catch the most sunlight. A 1,000-liter water tank can store enough heat to raise the temperature of a small barn section by 3 to 4 degrees Celsius during nighttime hours. As one farmer put it, "The water works harder than my sons, and complains less too." The hayloft serves double duty in the solar heating system. Beyond storing feed, densely packed hay bales act as excellent insulation and thermal mass. The south-facing sections of the loft are often packed tighter, creating a heat-absorbing wall that helps regulate barn temperature. Fresh hay's tendency to generate heat while curing adds to this effect, creating what one farmer calls his solar-powered hay-tur system. Even the dirt banks commonly built up against barn walls play a role in solar heat management. These banks, typically reaching 1 to 2 meters high, connect the barn to the Earth's constant temperature. The ground maintains a steady 10 to 13 degrees Celsius year-round, helping to moderate indoor temperatures. Plus, as another farmer noted, the banks provide convenient seating for taking a break, though his wife says that's not exactly an efficiency feature. Metal roofing elements, while traditional, also serve a solar purpose. The underside of metal roofing reflects heat back down into the barn, while specific angles can direct winter sunlight onto thermal mass elements below. Some farmers have even experimented with different metal finishes to optimize this effect, though one farmer's attempt at using old pie tins as additional reflectors earned him more laughs than heat, and a stern look from his wife. These passive solar systems require almost no maintenance, but they do need seasonal adjustments. Removable awnings might be added in summer to block excessive heat gain, while temporary reflectors can boost winter sun exposure. It's a seasonal dance that's been choreographed through generations of farming experience, with each family adding their own steps to the routine. Well, that's the science of keeping an Amish barn warm, from four-legged furnaces to solar heat traps.